Test 1, 2. Okay. Hello, Rosalinda.
Good morning, Jerry.
I'm actually in Donna today, so I'm changing that now. Let's see here.
Oh, right, you are.
hmm
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's away, so she may join us, but she's not able to start the meeting or join them. So I was surprised you were able to start the meeting. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I got on.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how many are going to be here, but that's good. Thank you for joining.
Oh, well,
So I
thank you.
changed my
I,
picture.
I let Paul know he's in Texas,
Oh,
but
okay.
they're 2 hour, 2 zone difference in time, and
Mm.
I don't know if he can make it, but let's see.
Okay, that's fine. What's he doing in Texas?
He's doing the intercoastal waterway with his sailboat.
Intercoastal waterway. Oh, okay. I didn't know he had a
Yeah.
sailboat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is starting from Texas and then going around the Florida Panhandle. Then I will be joining him later because
Hmm.
I don't do well with mosquitoes, and they bit me the last time, big
hmm
time in Florida.
So no
So
hurricanes planned for this season?
I don't. I hope not. Do we? Is it possible to share the screen, or we're not sharing screens? The
Share
or,
this. You mean to show something? You can share
yeah,
screen. Yeah.
well, to show ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
That's different. That's you want to start your video, not
Oh,
screen sharing.
start the video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On the bottom left, you should have mute and something about
Yeah,
video. Try
yeah.
start video. Now, screen sharing is if you want to share something like an application on your computer. There you are.
Okay, there.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, screen sharing is like I'm going to share the PowerPoint presentation, the
Mhm.
agenda, that kind of stuff. If you want to show something on your computer, you share the screen on your computer. Well,
Right.
I can
If
turn that
it's
on if
on
people
TV.
need to, but generally we have it off because we don't want just random things popping up.
Right. Yes. How have you been?
Oh, pretty good. We got a new vehicle for CERT. We're working on getting it upgraded and working and everything else. So we haven't had any drivers officially qualified. We have to go through this fire department training program to get them qualified, and
Mm.
that's taken a while because they're all busy doing firefighting stuff. So,
Wow.
so,
Okay.
so it just takes a
So
while longer than we thought
they would have to train the CERT
to
members
drive the vehicle. Yeah,
to drive
yeah,
us.
because it's 32 feet long, and they want to make
Mhm.
sure they were trained per city requirements, kind of stuff, and they were doing it safely. It's a big vehicle, so
It
it's
is
bigger than our
32
other one. Yeah.
feet. Oh my God.
hmm Yeah.
Hmm.
So it just takes, and like I said, they're doing a lot of overtime, so we have to get on their schedule on their overtime when they're not already on overtime doing firefighting stuff. So it just takes longer than we expected to be. So, but we're working on it. We're getting all the insides fixed up. We're buying supplies and stuff we need to put on the inside too. So hopefully, when we get trained, then we can just
Yeah.
immediately start using it.
Oh, that's great because that the big one's coming.
Yeah. Yes, it
Just
is.
a matter
Excuse
of
me.
time.
Find something there. Okay. Yeah, that's what they say. Eventually it's going to hit us. So you never know.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. So Jeff Weiserman and his son joined.
Joined CERT or joined the meeting? We lost you, Rosalinda. Rosalinda.
Told me
Oh,
so.
hang on. You cut out there for a second. All I heard was Jeff Wasserman and his son joined, and then you just stopped.
CERT.
Okay. When did they do that? Was that
I don't know exactly, but I that's what I heard Jeff say.
okay? Who is Jeff? Who? I saw a note about them, but who is he?
He's a neighbor of mine on
Okay.
East Shore. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's been through the CERT training.
I don't know. I think so because he was leading a meeting in his home about emergency preparedness for our HOA. I
Okay.
didn't go.
He is listed in the CERT membership, and he did
Yeah.
send a note to Sharon about um additional training coming up. So I'm assuming he is trained. It says he's former law enforcement.
Oh, uh-huh.
So that's all I know. So, okay.
Didn't know that. Mm.
Okay. And I see Mr. Ron Fitch has joined. He's our president of the club. And Terry.
Oh, good. I'm going to keep having my breakfast.
Okay, that's fine. We still have a few minutes before we officially start.
Mm-hmm. Avocado toast with spinach.
I'm not a big fan of avocado by itself. I
Mhm.
like avocado guacamole, but just by itself is like, it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
But I do like guacamole.
My father used to take an avocado, cut it in half, grab a spoon, and eat half of it, just right out of the shell. It was
Yeah. It's good for you.
Yeah, and California has an abundance of it. So,
Yeah.
are we the leading exporter of avocados? I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. My dad grew up in Bellflower, and I guess they had several trees, so they just got them off the tree.
Oh, that's nice.
Good morning, man. And Raymond. Raymond's still connected to the
There.
man.
Oh,
And we got
Mhm.
Raymond. Hello, man.
good morning.
Good morning.
Ron,
Good
I haven't
morning.
seen you or heard you yet. Are you there? I see a picture of you, Ron.
Mhm.
Sometimes he has audio video troubles because he switches things around a lot, so it takes him a few minutes to get connected.
Mhm.
Raymond, are you a member of CERT or ARCA or what?
Actually, I'm both.
You're both. Okay. I don't recognize the name. Have you done much activities with ARCA? Or with CERT, I mean?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've usually the notices come out and I'm usually engaged in something else, so I keep
Yep.
missing them.
Yep,
But I don't have a
happens.
radio either, so this is probably my first opportunity to see what's going on.
Do you have a ham license?
I do have a license.
Okay, good. Yeah, at the very last two screens, we're going to talk about suggested radios for new people that may not have they have a license but may not have a radio yet. So we'll talk about that at the end.
Oh, cool.
That's always comes up like, oh, what radio should I get? Well, here's some suggestions, different price points, different features, kind of stuff. And Ron, we still can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now we can.
Oh.
Now we can hear you. Okay, we see your picture,
Yeah,
but okay,
I'll turn my video on in a moment here.
that's fine. I just want to make sure we can hear you because you're kind of important here. And there's Dan coming up.
Yeah, I'm setting up. I've got this laptop on the ham radio table and there's stuff everywhere.
Oh
So
yeah.
I got cables running around all over the place.
Hello, Michael John. He's still connecting. Hello, Michael John. Oh, now you're sideways.
Mhm.
Sometimes it doesn't auto switch. There we go. That's better. And if you have a camera, it's nice to see people's faces. If you don't have a camera, you don't want to be on camera, that's fine too.
Hmm.
There's Mr. Dan.
Ah,
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Great. Jerry, I got your email this morning. am I correct that we've resolved the money issue with Jim? He's
That's what Donna says, yeah.
okay. Great. Good,
If
good.
you look at the very bottom of the agenda, and I'll point that out at the end, when we go through the agenda,
Okay, great.
that's what it says, yeah. But that's why I wanted her to confirm on the email that that's correct.
Okay, good.
Well, Ron, it's, what is it, 2 minutes after? We want to get started. Have you say hello?
Yeah, that's, I guess we've got the start of a group here. Let me turn the gallery on and see who we got going on here. Okay. We got 9 people so far, not bad. Well, good morning.
Good
You
morning.
should know that I don't do mornings well because I'm the one that's up in the middle of the night running radio contests, and this morning was no different. So, but I make an exception because I like to be here. So welcome to the ARCA Radio Club. We have a interesting presentation scheduled for this morning. And so there's not really a lot to say. The first thing that happens though is that we get we have everybody introduce themselves. Then I'm going to turn the meeting over to who actually is going to go down the agenda today.
I'll do that.
Thank you very much, Jerry. So then I'll just turn it over to you and you can run the show. So let's see here. My call sign, Whiskey Quebec 6 X-Ray, or this weekend, Whiskey Quebec 6 X-Ray QRP, because I'm running the weird prefix contest and I'm running QRP from Whiskey Alpha 6 Tango Quebec Tango in Anza. If you type in that call sign on QRZ, you'll see they got a big antenna farm down there, and I'm running 5 watts into their antenna farm. So that's my call sign this weekend, WQ6XQRP. Let's see who else we got. Was that Rosalinda? Would you tell us who you are?
Good morning. I am KK6RSF, and I have a ham radio and been with CERT for many years, several years, and live in Alameda, East End. Love to help the community.
Well, right on. Thank you. Let's see. I'll just go to my right. Jerry, KT6CRT.
Hello, this is Jerry Juhala, KT6CRT. Been with CERT for about 21 years and ARCA for about 12 years.
Wow. I'm actually the newbie in this club compared to most people, but okay, well, welcome. Let's see, Manuel.
Hi, so my call sign is KN6 Oscar Kilo Romeo. Fairly recently with CERT, a couple years, and ham radio, got my ham radio license last year, but very minimal experience with it.
Well, if you hang around us long enough, you'll get some of that experience. Thank you. Next up, Michael John. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Michael John, KF6YRG. I've been a member of the Amateur Radio Club for many, many years, working with the Community Emergency Response Team, and just did my renewal for my American Radio Relay League membership, which hopefully will not expire until 2026. Michael John, KF6YRG.
All right. Yep, it's membership renewal time for me too. Let's see, Dan, you're next.
Hey, yeah, this is Dan with my new call sign N6AAD. Kind of put me at the head of the line for net check-ins. No gaming there. Doing great, just kind of getting into HF, learning a little bit every day. Kind of dealing with the current sun conditions, which are extraordinary. And I've been doing some internet researching, trying to kind of factor in all the parameters. It's actually pretty interesting. And just kind of, taking it a day at a time.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your new call sign, November 6 Alpha, Alpha Delta. That's a good contest call sign. Very much.
Absolutely.
Yep. And this
No
week we
gaming there.
had a nasty solar storm, a K index of 7. Took a lot of things out 2 days ago. Let's see here. Terry.
Yes, so my call sign is, KN6ETG. And I've been with CERT since 2018. And primarily, I've never even considered becoming a ham radio operator until I joined CERT, and then I saw the advantages to it. So,
Well, very good. Hang out with us on field day and you'll get a lot of experience in 24 hours. I promise you. And Lori.
Hi there. I am KM6TBA. I have been with CERT, I think, since 2010. Got my ham radio in about 2017. But I did that class where you learn to pass the test, but you don't learn how to use a ham radio. And so I had a New Year's resolution this year to learn the ham radio. So Donna Fong's my Elmer, I think that's the term. And I am looking to be able to do more with the ham radio, especially with all this bad weather and everything going on. I would turn it on and I would say, is there going to be news on this? But all you hear is weather. So Lori, KM6TBA.
Okay. Well, you've had what a lot of people have gone through. They pass the test and then I sit them in front of the radio and they go, what does RF gain mean?
Yeah.
And so, but again, hang around people on field day and you'll get the lingo just like that. Let's see, Raymond.
Hi, my name's Raymond, and I just sorry about that. I keep hitting the wrong buttons.
All right.
You're okay.
Am I back yet? Okay. I'm new to this, and so I was looking forward to seeing what was going on. My call sign, I think, is KN6HLS. Since I don't use it very often, I had to go look for it just a few minutes ago to see what it was doing. But I want to see what happens and things are going to go, and possibly end up getting a radio if things work out.
Sounds good to me. Let's see, Carmen.
Good morning. I just joined, so not sure what you are asking.
We just want to know who you are and if you have a radio call sign, what your call sign is.
Yes, my call sign is KK6JKZ. I do net control sometimes on Thursdays and also helped the CERT ASAC committee put together a little like check-in on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. So it's another opportunity for people to get on the net and get a little bit more experience.
Yep. Every time you sit behind a radio, you get more experience. Yep. Very good. And let's see, last but not least, I see Rose kind of moving around there. Good morning, Rose.
Rose was trying to get the light adjusted so I wasn't completely in shadow. Rose
You
is still
actually
in
look
South
good.
America. Rose is still in South America. It's hot. I just came in from the local flea market, which they do twice a week, and I always go to see what's there. And I'm K6LEZ and do publicity and what else is needed.
Okay, so you're in South America?
I'm in Santiago, Chile at the moment.
Oh, wow, very cool. Well, welcome.
I'll be back.
Welcome
I'll be
back.
back next week.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there we go. We've got ourselves a 4, 8, 11 people here. So, Jerry, let me just kick it over to you and make it official.
All right, can you see my screen? The
Sure
agenda.
can.
Okay, so we got the net control operators set for March and April. Actually, next week is going to be me. Charles had to drop out for next week. He has a medical appointment. May, we still need two, one for May 4th and one for May 18th. Is anyone available for any of those two? I would like to sign up now. Also, we need some in June as well. If you have any interest, let me know. Anybody raise your hand at once? If not, we'll call people later and then figure this out and add them to the list. Another thing, Jim Wright made a backup repeater. We actually have 3 repeaters, and he's made them all. One is on top of the hospital, and one is at his house, and we have a backup that was at the CERT office, the EOC. Jim is going to be donating that to ARCA, and we're going to be taking care of that and storing that in case the hospital ever falls down. Then we have a backup we can plug in someplace. All we need is a tall antenna. So we'd like to thank Jim for donation of that backup antenna, backup repeater. Did some tests last couple months ago on the battery in the existing repeater, and it does need to be replaced. So we're looking to replace that with this one here. It's about $400, and it should give us several days usage out of it in case the power goes out. Okay, share. Now we'll go to the presentation. And can you see the presentation, the ARCA presentation? PowerPoint? Okay, so welcome. Today we're going to, my name is Jerry Juhala, KT6CRT. I'm one of the members of CERT ASEC Executive Board Committee. We make some of the policies and procedures for CERT members. I'm also a ad hoc liaison to ARCA as the CERT liaison for emergency communications from CERT to ARCA. I'm not on the board of ARCA though. So we're going to talk about how do ham radars respond before and after an emergency event. Basically, do not self-activate. You don't just run out into the middle of the street and start doing stuff. You need to work as a team. You need to be activated by a served agency. And usually that's either the Alameda Fire Department, Police Department, Public Works, City Hall. Any city agency could activate us based on a specific need. There are some times when the activation is not specific because it's an obvious disaster, like a major earthquake. And then we have policies and procedures on how to activate then, but it is not a self-activation, it is a designed activation. In that case, you check into the resource net and report to a CERT rally point. If it's an obvious disaster. If it's not so obvious disaster, just listen to the resource net, that's the ARCA repeater, and see if anyone needs help. We always work as part of a team. When activated, even though you may be alone at a specific site, because you may be the only one there, but you're still part of a team overall. We don't just go out there and jump in the middle of the street and respond by ourselves. What kind of obvious signs to activate would there be? A major earthquake, obviously, if it's a big enough earthquake, there's damage to the city. There's instances in the Bay Area itself. That's when we would self-activate as part of a team. If it's a large storm that causes major damage throughout the city, a gas line rupture resulting in fire, like what happened in San Bruno in 2010, 11, 9, one of those. That's when they had that huge fire. I saw it from the top of Castro Valley Hill coming over the huge fireball and flames and everything else. An airplane crash, we could be activated for that if it's in town. Any man-made disaster due to an act of terrorism, they may activate us to help either evacuate an area or provide traffic control around the area. What are not so obvious reasons to activate? It'd be more localized events that you can't tell from the inside of your house. A missing person. We've done, I think, 15 missing persons responses with the Alameda Police Department, mainly children, people with disabilities, and older persons that have Alzheimer's or mental issues that make them a danger to themselves and they can't necessarily find their way home. A gas leak with no fire yet, but the area needs to be evacuated. Communications failure. In Santa Clara 2009, someone deliberately cut the main communications trunk to 911, internet, and a lot of stuff in that county. So they were without 911 for about 2 or 3 days. they sent out their ham radio operators to different places throughout the county, throughout the city, and they acted as their communications between the citizens and the dispatch. That's when that may happen here. Points of distribution. We have medical and commodity pods. We've done activations with for vaccinations, water, food. We've given out 25,000 bottles of water for when the Alameda Point had their big water problem back in 2016, 15. I can't remember. We did that. We've done for COVID vaccinations. We've done traffic control and crowd control around vaccination sites. We've done food traffic control around the Alameda Food Bank. Shelter operations. If you help at a shelter, we need communications for that. If you help with traffic control, we'll talk about that later. Then we need communications. What to do before the big one hits. You want to make sure you prepare before a event happens, because you don't want to have to, after the event, try and find all this stuff. You want to get training. Talk to your local CERT team, talk to your ham radio club, like ARCA. Get first aid training. Get as much training as you can so you're better prepared to handle an emergency. You need to know what their procedures and protocols are. What frequencies do they use? Where do they go? Where do they meet? You need to have a go back with radios, batteries, food, water, clothing. PPE is personal protective equipment, hard hat, gloves. Everything should be ready to go. We recommend that you have one in your house by the front door, ready to walk out. Keep one in your car, so if you're not home, you have one always ready to go, so you can self-sustain yourself for up to 18 hours on a shift. You never know. Typically shifts are 8 hours, but if you're out in the middle of nowhere and no one else is coming to help you, you may be out there for a while. So be able to sustain yourself for at least 18 hours. Do not expect the served agency to bring you any supplies. Even if you're working at a shelter, they may have nothing. If you look at some of the hurricane damage done back east, they're just total neighborhoods just wiped out. There was houses before, and now it's just dirt. And then they set up a pop-up tent, and now they have some shelter, but they may not have food. So bring whatever you think you might need to your event. If they have stuff for you, great. Use whatever they have first. If they have water, if they have food, they have snacks, use theirs first. But if they don't have anything, at least you have something for yourself to keep yourself going. If you don't keep going, if you get sick and get tired, then you can't do the job that you've been requested to do. So at least bring the minimum basics for yourself. That includes medical supplies. Bring Band-Aids, aspirin, something to take care of yourself. Have a different kit for yourself versus a kit that you deal with other people. You have big bandages, trauma stuff for other people, but have a local personal kit that you keep on you just in case you get a little cut on your hand or need aspirin or something. What do you do after the big one hits, or any disaster besides the big one? First thing you always want to do, check on your family and your home. Make sure your family is safe, your home is safe, you don't have any water leaks, don't have any gas leaks, everything is up to code, but everything is working fine. Grab your go bag. Make sure you replenish any perishable supplies that may be in there. If you had water in there, it may have gone sour or bad since the last time you checked on it. So replace the water. If you have snacks, try and keep non-perishable snacks in your go bag. But if you had something like that, make sure you refresh that. Check your batteries. I know we should check our batteries at least once a month to keep them charged up. Sometimes we don't do that. You may need some extra AA batteries, AAA batteries to go with your HT, with your flashlights. Make sure you have all that. If you're responding at night, bring a flashlight. We've done so many search and rescues at night, and people do not bring a flashlight. Make sure you bring a flashlight. Even if it's the daytime, bring a flashlight. I always have at least 2 flashlights on me at all times. If I do an event like at the USS Hornet, I have 3 or 4. So you always want to have a flashlight on you. First thing you want to do is listen to the radio. Go to the primary repeater, the ARCA repeater, and secondary is the CERT repeater. Listen in. If it's a localized disaster, say you lose power in your own house, you look outside. If the neighbors have power, then maybe you just need to pay your power bill. If the neighbors don't have power, then turn on the repeater. Bring it up, listen, check in, see if anyone's there, see how widespread the power outage is. If it's just your neighborhood, a few blocks, probably don't need to do anything, just sit down and wait. If it's the whole town or half the town like we just had recently, then that's when you want to monitor the repeater, see how widespread the problem is, and be prepared to act if called upon. If there is a resource net in progress, check in, let them know that you're on the air and listening. But right now, tell them you're not available because all you've done is checked on your own house. Just say, hey, I'm here, I'm listening. I'll be ready in a little while. Make sure you give them your location. If you tell net control that you're available in a low hour and they don't hear back from you and they need help, they may call you, say, hey, are you available now? If they try and call you and you don't answer, they may eventually send someone out to check on you, just to make sure you're okay. Because who knows, maybe you were okay, but then there was an aftershock and now you're underneath your building. So they may check on you. Then check on your immediate neighbors on your block. If they're trapped in their home and have a gas leak, you want to take care of that first. These are your neighbors. You got to get any issues there, especially if it's a gas leak. You want to make sure you shut off the gas because you don't want that to become a bigger problem in your area. Do not enter any buildings that are unsafe to enter as well. So now that you've checked on your own home and your neighborhood, now you're ready to respond. Now what do? Where do you go? Check back into the resource net. If there's anything going on, any activations in progress, they will have the information. The ARCA repeater is 444.575 megahertz, positive offset, and a PL of 88 hertz. Also listen to the tactical net on CERT repeater, 147.825 megahertz, negative offset, and a PL of 88 hertz. Here are some examples of some places we anticipate needing ham operators. If you can't get anyone on the resource net or tactical net and it's an obvious disaster, you want to consider heading to the nearest one of these. CERT rally points. Every fire department district has a rally point at a local park. District 1 is at Lincoln Park. District 2 is at Washington Park. District 3, Franklin Park. District 4, Lydecker Park. And District 5 is at City Hall West. So if it's an obvious disaster, major earthquake, say there's no resource net up yet, nobody's responded, but you know you're going to need help, proceed to one of these rally points. That's the best thing. All CERT members are trained. Go to these rally points. On your way there, take note of any damage or issues you see on the way. Check into the CERT incident commander at the rally point. Give him the information or her the information. And then they will work on priorities on how they can best use the CERT teams. As a ham radio operator, you would primarily be a communicator between either the rally point and the EOC or between the rally point and a team in the field. So we need lots of ham radio operators at every rally point. Other potential sites, Alameda Hospital. If there's a big scale disaster, we do want to make sure we have communication at Alameda Hospital so that the EOC and the hospital can communicate. If the phone lines are down, but ham radio's up, then that's the only way they can talk to each other. Internet could be down, nothing else works, ham radio always works. They do have a radio in the hospital right behind the ER. We're supposed to be checking it every month. They have a BAHN, B-A-H-N, Bay Area Hospital Network test that they do once a month. And they're supposed to be checking that radio. So there's a radio there. If you cannot get in, say it's too busy, nobody lets you in, sit outside. Just use your HT and talk to EOC or anyone that's on the radio and let them know that you're at the hospital. Whoever's there, check in with them, say, hey, I'm here. I can provide communication to the EOC if you don't have anything else. Just make sure they know you're there. All the bridges and potential site. We want to make sure we understand what is working and what is not working. What bridges are up, what bridges have accidents, what bridges are closed. With the recent power problem, both the Fruitvale Bridge and the High Street Bridge were in an up position letting a boat or barge go through when the power went out. And they were both stuck that way. They were closed for about 3 or 4 hours with no traffic going through before it would resolve it. So we need to know if things are closed or open. We need somebody to go to each tunnel. One person could do both tunnels, but it maybe could have both. We need to know if those are open or closed, if there's any flooding, if there's any accidents. If you see traffic not coming through, then that could be an issue. Sorry about that. I have a little cough. I don't want to cough into the mic. We would want to send somebody to every fire station. There's 4 fire stations, and to the police station and designated operators to the EOC. At the fire stations in Oakland, they have ham radio stations inside. We are working to get that place for Alameda fire stations. For right now, you would send an operator to the fire station and just sit out front. If there's a communication outage, what are people going to do? They're going to try and get old 911. They won't be able to. And they're going to walk or drive to the nearest fire station if they need help. The firefighters are not going to be there because they're going to be out on calls, but we will have we're going to try and have a ham radio operator there to answer questions. and provide communication to the EOC and let them know that, hey, people are here at the fire station. We need medical, we need search and rescue, whatever we need. Same thing with the city hall, police station as well. We're going to send bodies there so that they can answer questions of people that walk up. We want to send someone to city hall so there can be a liaison between the city hall people and the EOC as well. Most city leaders will be at the EOC, but people don't know that. And we don't want the public going to the EOC. They would be going to the city hall. So we would have a communicator at the city hall to provide, especially if there's just a crowd growing. So we know, hey, there's a lot of people here. They are reporting issues, incidences in the area, whatever it is. And by the way, if you do have any questions during this, please ask right away. Don't wait until the end. Just go and pop up. Michael John, does sound like your mic is on if you want to mute it until unless you have a question. Thank you, Michael John. Other sites we may send radio operators to: Alameda High School, Encino High School. Those are designated shelter points. So if we have a big earthquake and we have to shelter a lot of people, we would send them to those high schools. They have bathrooms, they have showers, they have the gym for sleeping. They have a lot of good facilities there as long as the high schools are up and running. So we may have to send a radio operator there. Same thing with middle schools. Some of the middle schools are designated as shelters as well. Major shopping centers, South Shore Shopping Center, Park Street, Webster, probably the college, any schools that have kids in class, we want to know what's going on there. If we have a shopping center, we may end up setting up a shelter in the parking lot. So we want to have communication. Anywhere there's a need for communication that we're going to expect a lot of people to congregate or go to, we want to make sure we have a radio operator so we can talk to them.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, with the high schools, would we have someone from the high school there to say where things are and how it would be set up, or would we be just?
Yes, there should always be somebody there before you are sent there.
Okay.
If the school is in session, then they're not going to set up a shelter there at that time. Well, first off, the schools have their own radio network. It's an 800 megahertz system, I believe. So they have communication between the schools. But they may ask us to send our people there as well so that we can talk to them and transmit information as well. If wherever you go, wherever you're sent, find the person in charge and say, hey, I'm here. I'm sent by the city to provide any communication needs you might have. Do you have any needs? And we'll talk about more of this later about what you talk about. Do you have anything that you need or that you need relayed to the city? So we always find whoever's in charge and let them know that you're there, and then that's what your job is. If it's not during school hours, then we wouldn't necessarily send somebody there unless they were opening as a shelter. But if it's during school, we may want to send them just so we know what's going on at the school. If they need help, do they have buildings collapse? Do they have lots of injuries? Typically, like I said, they have their own radios, but sometimes those don't work. Any other questions? Okay. What are you going to do there? Now we're going to talk in the details. Always check in with the person in charge. If it's a bridge or a tunnel, nobody's going to be in charge. You're just there as a set of eyes and ears. Always assess the needs of that location. Life safety always takes precedent over property protection. So figure out who's injured, what kind of injuries do they have, how many patients do you have, what are the nature of their injuries, and report that back to EOC so they can get the right medical people there. If it's a wide-scale disaster, it may take a while. You may have to do with what you have. You may have to, obviously, first thing you do is stop bleeding, control bleeding. If somebody is continuous bleeding, they're going to bleed out. All bleeding stops eventually. If it stops without your intervention, then it probably means they're going to die. So try and stop the bleeding. If they're in pain, try and get them comfortable. Do as much first aid as you can with the resources you have. If you're at a business or a school, they will have some medical supplies. So trying to find out where those supplies are. Take whatever you can with you from your house and use whatever you can. If there's property damage, like trees falling on cars and flooding and gas leaks, try and do as much as you can. But if somebody's life is at stake first, take care of the life safety first. Your job is to communicate any needs, requirements, issues, safety concerns, or questions from and to that location. So you talk to the person in charge, say, this is what I'm here for. If it's a shelter and then they need cots, or they need blankets, or they need pillows, or they need food for the night, then you want to communicate that. The EOC may have questions for them, say what's going on at that location. How many patients do you have? You'd find the person in charge and find out, tell them this information request came from the EOC and we need to know what's going on here. Use whatever means you can to get the message through. Even though most of us, all of us are here are ham radio operators, we don't just use ham radios. We use whatever we can. We can use the VOG app. That's an app used by CERT on your smartphone, and you can send up pictures, audio, video, text messages to go straight to the EOC, so that a lot of people on the EOC will be able to see these messages that you send in, and they can reply or respond to them right away. If you send that we have a fire and send a picture of a house on fire at this location, they will see that right away, and they can send firefighters right away. You can send video, especially if it's, sometimes video helps with a bigger scale event. Like if you want to show lots of like flooding or lots of damage, like a wide scale event, then a video helps too. Use your cell phone, call it in if you can, call 911, call your net control if you have a net control. Use ham radio, use GMRS radios. GMRS and FRS radios are great for intra-team communication. So between the local team leader and the 5 or 6 people on his team, and say they're searching a neighborhood or searching a house, you have one person stay outside the house and they can talk to all the search members that are going into the house or into the neighborhood to figure out what's going on. We don't want to tie up ham radio frequencies necessarily for that kind of communication because there's not enough ham radio frequencies for every team. But there are GMRS and FRS frequencies that can be used and radios that can be used for that kind of communication. They work great for intra-team, local, block-to-block communication. Send a packet. Sometimes sending data like a large list of medical supplies or a large list of shelter supplies takes a long time to send over ham radio, but it can be sent very quickly via packet. Each of the MDUs has a packet station. Do you know how to use it? If you do, please see me because we need training on how to use it. I know Tracy and Stacy, you do a lot of this training down in Santa Clara County, and they're going to be helping us figure out how to use our packet stations. There's also a packet station in the EOC. Fax, it's old school, but it works if the phone lines are up, so it may work. Smoke signals, worst case, send a runner. If nothing else works, the ham radio frequencies are jammed, they're not working, the repeater's down, simplex is too far, send a runner, send somebody on a bike if they can't get through on a car. You got to get the message through. That's your job, to get the message through. Whatever works at the best at that time. Examples of messages to pass. The High Street Bridge is stuck in a raised position. APD expects it to be closed for 4 hours. I passed that one myself to Sharon. She was at home. Lincoln Park needs an ambulance. 5 patients in critical condition when tree fell on them. 10 patients need minor care for scrapes and bumps. So we've told them where. We told them what we need. We told them how many patients are critical. That's important for the ambulances coming in. And we told them how many patients are minor. So we have 15 patients total. They know they need X number of ambulances at this location. Mm-hmm. When the ambulance does arrive to your location, especially in a big park, make sure you have someone out front to show them where the patients are. So you need to be able to direct them to that location. If you can safely move the patients someplace close to where the ambulance is going to pick them up. If you can't move the patients, then direct the ambulance or the firefighters, paramedics with the gurney to their location. Sometimes it's very dangerous to move a patient yourself, so leave them where they're at and just direct the ambulance. But they need to know they are going to drive up to the nearest street or nearest road, and then you need to point them to where they need to go. Another message is Alameda Hospital is full and cannot take any more patients. Their power is out and they're running on generator power. They have enough fuel for 2 days. So now we know, don't send any more patients to Alameda Hospital, and we got to get a fuel truck to them within 2 days to keep them running, or get AMP out there to get the power up and running. Some of this, when we do search and rescue with the police, sometimes we say walking search of Webster Street has been completed of all the businesses. What is my next assignment? When you do a search and rescue, we will send you out with a team, and you'll either walk around a block, knock on everybody's door, or you'll walk up and down Webster Street and Park Street in South Shore Parking Center, or Shopping Center, and go into every business, say, hey, this person's missing. Have you seen this person? And we'll give you a flyer or a picture on your phone. You can show them and tell them if you see this person, call Alameda Police Department. Another question, there's an abandoned warehouse with an open door on Alameda Point. Request APD to conduct internal search. If you're doing a search and rescue some of the warehouses out in Alameda Point are drug houses or dangerous. We do not go into open warehouses, but we want to make sure it's searched because the person we are looking for may be in there. So if we find an open door, we would call APD. They would send police officers to inspect and search that location. We would not go in because we may find people that we don't want to find and they may be violent or dangerous to us. But we will make sure we report that back. Suspicious person seen leaving a backpack in front of Toy Safari at 1200 Park Street. That didn't specifically happen, but there was a suspicious person with a backpack during one July 4th parade. So we want to make sure we note that too. If you see something, say something. Any questions yet? You're very quiet. Shelter at Mastic Senior Center has 55 clients for tonight and 45 open beds. We need food for 65 people in the morning, need 100 COVID test kits, and need 200 more blankets. I also volunteer with the Red Cross, and we've done something similar to this, not at Mastic, but elsewhere. So this tells EOC we have a shelter. It is at Mastic Senior Center. We have a total of 55 people. We call them clients in Red Cross. And we can take another 45. So now they know how many people we need to feed clients, and we know how many people they can send us. They can send us 45 more. I asked for food for 65. Why would I do that? How many people are actually at the shelter? We have 55 clients, but there's more than just clients at the shelter. There's people working there too. So we want to make sure we have food for the people working there. So don't forget those people. They need food too. So we're going to be overnight. We're going to be sleeping. We need 65 people in the morning for food. In the morning, we'll make another announcement and find out how much food we need for the afternoon for lunch. That may be a different number. As people have shelters, like Red Cross has several shelters open right now. Yeah, people come in, they sleep, then they get up and they go to work. Sometimes they're not there for lunch. Sometimes they only come back for dinner. So we may not need 65 meals for lunch. Maybe we only need 55 or 45. So make sure you let them know that. We do in the Red Cross shelters, we do test for COVID if you have any signs or symptoms. So we want to make sure we have COVID test kits on hand. If you have signs and symptoms, then they will be quarantined in a separate area. But they will be sheltered, but they will be quarantined in a separate area of the shelter. We need 200 more blankets. They do not offer pillows in the Red Cross shelters because those are too hard to clean and they take up too much storage space. But they will give you 2 blankets, one for you and one to act as a pillow. So we need lots of blankets. And then you get to take that home as a complimentary pillow, blanket and pillow for your request. Another message might be there's an overturned accident at Central and 8th Street. The car severed a gas line on a house and it cannot be shut off locally. We are evacuating all residents on the block. 2 occupants in the car are trapped. That actually sort of happened on Central near Washington Park. A car slammed into a house and broke a gas line. No CERT people were there, but the fire department responded and they did evacuate the people in the area until they could shut the gas off. That was a couple of years ago. But in a big disaster, you may be the first one on scene, so you may have to deal with that kind of situation. Special notes about storms. In case you've been watching the news, recently several people have died in the storm due to trees falling on their cars while driving or even while parked. We generally don't recommend you go out into a storm until it passes, as it could be very dangerous. If there's a need to travel, just be very careful and aware of your surroundings because you don't want to be hit by a tree. For instance, this one here, nobody died in any of these pictures. I'm going to show you 2 pictures. This was at Washington Park. Central Avenue was closed for about 3 or 4 hours while they cleaned up this mess. There were people inside that got injured, but nobody died. This one was in San Leandro. 2 people were sitting in a parked car, and that huge tree just fell over and came right on the top of the car. Fortunately, they did not die. But these kind of things can happen. You just watch the news, see lots of people getting hit by cars, getting hit by trees. What about later? For any event that we do, search and rescue, disaster, even a parade, we need people right away, and we need people later too. If it's going to be a long, large-scale event, we will need to go into 2 or 3 shifts, sometimes 2 or 3 days of people need. If it's a very long term, it could be weeks. So even if you're not available right now, today, let us know that you are possibly available later. We'll put your name on a list, and as the needs come up, or as issues come up, we will call you and say, hey, are you available now to help out? We have a need over here. If we know your phone number, that helps too, because we can call you on the phone if that's possible. But we do want to know if who's all available. Even if you're not available right away, get on the radio, get on the resource net, say, hey, I have a ham radio. I gotta take care of my mother-in-law. I gotta check on my kids, and then I'll be ready in a couple hours. Let the resource know that you're available sometime. When you are available, then check back into the resource net or into the VOG app and see if the event is still going on. We've done search and rescues, and at the end of the net, we've shut it down, and we still have people coming by. Oh, I didn't know you guys were shut down. Yes, we're shut down. Everything's good. Thank you very much for coming by. You could have saved a trip if you had called us, or if you checked the VOG app, you would have seen that it was closed, that we found the person, or we're shutting down for the night. So always check before you head out. If it's been a few hours, are we still active? Is the event still going on? Do we still need help? Maybe we have plenty of help. No, we never have plenty of help. We always need more help. What about when you're done? What are you going to do? When your shift is over, always make sure that you check out with net control or the team leader. If you just go home, sit on the couch, have a beer, we're going to come find you. We're going to think that you're still out there trapped underneath the rubble, and we're going to have to come look for you, spending time and resources that we don't need to do. So please check out. Let us know that you're done. Even if you're just sick, just let us know that you're done. Even if you have a heart attack, try and find someone to let us know that you're leaving. We had one guy during the Oakland Marathon a couple of years ago. He had heart issues, and he was standing next to a police officer at that intersection, and the cop called an ambulance for him. And he was in the back of an ambulance when I rode by on my bicycle, and just said, "Hey, where's the guy? Oh, he's in the ambulance." Well, okay, so we had to let them know, that EOS network control know, that this person's not at this location anymore. So if you do have to leave, try and let us know. Afterwards, if the event coordinators ask for feedback, please provide feedback. It helps us to know what worked, what didn't work, how can we do better next time? What worked for you, what didn't work for you? Talk to us. It always helps us to know. We always accept feedback. Even if it's negative feedback, it always helps us to know what to do better. For instance, I'm always told I talk too fast. I'm sorry about that. I'm sure Ron Fitch would be able to help me with that if I took his, what do you call it? What is that class you guys do? Toastmasters. My mom was very big in Toastmasters. I took Toastmasters. I probably learned how to speak slower. And we're not done yet. Just any time for any other questions. If you unmute, can't hear you.
Yeah, actually, I have a question. I'm a high frequency operator, HF. Most of you are VHF, so I'm learning as much from you. And the only thing I didn't see, assuming, let's say, a big disaster like an earthquake in an area and so on, is there any VHF coordination with the HF nets? Because there are nets on HF. And I wonder, is there a coordination, and how does that actually happen?
There is coordination. The Alameda County EOC would be set up in a wide-scale disaster, and we could talk to the Alameda County to get additional resources if necessary. Also, we are working with our local Oakland, Berkeley, San Leandro residents, neighbors, on how to communicate with them if they have additional resources that we could use if we have more problems than they do, or if they have more problems and we don't have any, we can send bodies to them. As far as HF, that is one thing where we're lacking. We do know it's a possible need where we may have to get outside of our local area, because if the Dublin EOC for the county is not available, we may have to talk to Sacramento or someplace else. And HF would be one of the only ways to do it. So yes, that is an identified need. We don't have an answer for that yet.
Okay, just as a case in point, I believe 7284 is the noontime net. They're there every day, but they often start way early, and they're quote unquote prepared to fire it up in the afternoon, if something happens. So that I would encourage HF affiliation, and if I can contribute to that, I don't know what it would be, but feel free to tap my HF knowledge.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we did have some people that knew HF, but most of them are retired or moved away or something, so we're lacking on that area of skill. So that would help. Okay. Hang on. Okay.
Jerry?
Yes.
I might add just a second what Ron just said. I'm also very interested in HF, and specifically the NVIS, which is the localized focus for HF rather than distance. And if I would also be interested in engaging in any local regional HF coordination or whatever program you might want to move forward with.
Okay, that's good to know. Carmen, remind me to talk to Dan about that. Yeah, we do need to get HF involved. The problem with California is we don't have enough disasters actually happening to keep people interested and prepared. Like Florida, Texas, they have disasters all the time, so the people know what to do. They're always prepared and always ready because they always have them. In California, we rarely have something go bad, and when it does, it's been 10 years ago, and all of our batteries are dead, our water's stale, our food's bad. So most people are not very well prepared because they take a preparedness class, they get prepared, and then nothing happens. They let their skills lapse. They let everything else go bad. And then when it happens, like, oh, where's my go bag? Where's my radio? How do I get on the air? What frequency are they on now? So we need better. It makes it hard to keep people prepared and interested. That's why we do other events like the July 4th parade, search and rescue. We do things to keep people interested. We do some training. We haven't done much training during COVID because of COVID, but we're trying to get back and do some more training this year as well. But yeah, HF is one thing that we need to get back into.
Jerry, I have a question.
Yep.
It's Carmen. For those of us who may not be as familiar with HF, can you kind of could one of you or Dan or Ron just give us a little like quick tutorial and what the differences are and what we might need to know and basically how it's different from what we're using right now?
Ron, can you address that?
Yeah, actually I can. Our last meeting, as a matter of fact, I discussed that. Did we get a video of that meeting?
Probably. I think it's saved to my local machine when I run the meeting, so I have to find it.
If somebody could put that up on our YouTube channel, I actually addressed that issue in the last meeting under the topic of what band should I be on? And I describe each of the high frequency bands and are they good in the daytime or in the nighttime and things like that. But it might be worth doing another ARCA event about that to help you people. And if you want to learn more about HF, definitely show up to our field day event. We don't know where that's going to be yet, but show up and you can sit down and we'll put you in the operator's chair and you'll learn a lot about HF in like 1 hour.
Okay. Dan, do you have any comment about NVIS?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I like it a lot. What comes to mind as a first approximation is between VHF versus HF. HF is going to require larger antennas. It's not going to be portable. You're not going to walk down the street with an HF rig. So you're going to need some kind of a semi-permanent or portable pop-up mast. So it's like, you wouldn't walk to a location with an HF rig. On the other hand, they can very easily be set up. There are kind of a little push-up mast with an inverted V, and you'd have a simple portable one. It's very doable, but it's not going to be as simple. I would certainly encourage it as point area communication. So you might want to have one at the EOC, one at some place where you'd have a center that you could communicate, because it will provide coverage that the VHF frequencies will not. And there is a ground wave that'll just kind of spread out over an area if you have other people who will be listening to the frequencies. So I would encourage it. And if we do, or when we have our field day, I have an HF project that I'm working on. I'm going to bring all of my HF gear, my portable stuff, and I'm going to actually set up an HF portable location just to see if it works actually. And it might be a fun thing if people want to get involved in that for field day.
Okay. I know Al Sweet has a telescoping antenna that he drives his car over the base, and that holds it down. Then it just pulls up like a flagpole. I'm not sure what kind of antenna he has on there, but I think it is an HF rig.
It's probably a buddy pole, which is a collapsible dipole. That's a common a portable antenna.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main points of field day is to have people try setting up radios. So, Dan, it'll be good to have you do a whole station for us. You'll get experience and we'll get experience watching you do it.
Well, thank you. Actually, I have parts and pieces of 3 separate buddy pole assemblies, which I'm, and mast and a semi-portable rig. And indeed, I intend to spend a lot of time putting the pieces together. And I think anyone who wants to participate will learn a great deal about resonance and how to use these. So I am looking forward to having a project. I think it'll be fun. So that's my project.
Well, in
for Field
Day, we have what's called a GOTA station, which is a get on the air right away type station. You would be the perfect GOTA station for the ARCA Field Day this year.
Well, I'd like to do it because my plan is to have everything in a couple of bags, bring the bags out, set the mast up, have just a inverted V, plug it into a rig, and start communicating with batteries, and that would be very useful for HF emergency communications because assuming you have somebody who will be on that frequency, you'll just immediately take over the airwaves.
Yes, and and if that's in the daytime on 40 meters, I believe 7284, there's the Beehive net. They start up in the morning at about 11 o'clock up in Utah area, but they can get into California quite easily.
Yeah.
So it's good to know all the traffic nets on HF. And then in the evening on 75 meters, from about 6 o'clock to about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, there are probably a dozen different traffic nets that are operational on 75. If you have a ham radio, turn your radio on to 3900 and tune that 100 kilohertz any evening, and you will hear traffic nets being conducted, and you'll get to see how HF traffic nets are run because they're a little bit different than VHF traffic nets.
Right. And an advantage of HF is your signal will provide a ground wave locally, but it will communicate at a distance. So even with my INVIS setup, although I get local coverage, I easily communicate to Northern Oregon and Arizona. So I get a 600-mile radius. So if there were a major emergency, we might or might not have contacts within the Bay Area. We might want to bounce a signal to Oregon, who could then relay it to Sacramento and get some kind of help on the way. So it just provides extra capabilities that would not be available with a VHS system in a serious emergency.
And notice the word you used, relay, because amateur radio started as relays, amateur radio relay leagues. So good. I'm glad that you brought up the relay idea.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Okay. Dan, I would recommend.
Project.
Dan, I would recommend that you try and test all of it. You said you have bags of stuff. Make sure you have all the pieces before you field day. I don't want you to come out on field day. Oh, I'm missing a piece. I need to order this piece on Amazon. Now it's too late.
Yeah. I'll make sure I do.
Okay. Now just a couple of things on basic operations on how things work. So simplex radios, HT to HT, radio to radio without a repeater. Operator A talks to operator B, and then they talk back and forth on the same frequency, 146.505 megahertz. They talk on the same frequency back and forth, one at a time. That only has a distance. We've done simplex about halfway through town, a little bit longer through town, depending on the size of your radio and the size of your antenna. If you have a tall antenna with a mobile radio, you can probably get all the way across town with enough power, but HT to HT, generally about halfway across town is reliable coverage. How would you do it if you had to go farther than that? You'd say somebody in the area A with an HT can only talk that much distance, and area B can only talk a little distance. They can't talk to each other on simplex, but if you have a relay person in the middle, that with a higher powered antenna and a higher powered radio, they could relay the signal between A and B. Or if you had a repeater in the middle, which we do have 2 repeaters, then that would automatically relay the signal, so we don't have to worry about a person being in the middle to relay that information. That's how a repeater works. You talk on one channel, it receives it, then it relays it back out on a different channel. That's why when you push the button, you talk on when you push the button on the left-hand side, it talks on 449.575 and it receives the signal on 444.575 megahertz. There's also PL tones in there so that we can have a lot more people on the same frequency and not interfere with each other. When they talk back, B pushes the button, it transmits on 449 and A receives on 444. So a repeater is just taking the signal and repeating it over a wide area at a higher power and a higher antenna. So that way you can get more distance and more coverage. Couple of procedures: always listen, wait, and then listen again. Anytime you're on the radio, unless you're net control or the team leader, you're primarily going to be listening. You're not going to be talking very much. If the repeater's free, then you can call a specific station. If you don't want to talk to a specific person, just say, hey, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm monitoring, I'm available if needed. Like I said, listen, wait, listen again. Sometimes stations are distant and you can't really hear them, but when you key up, they can hear you, especially if you have a higher power antenna. So you want to say, can I hear you? Can I hear somebody? I don't want to step on somebody if they're on that frequency. I did not have a ham radio license in 1989 earthquake, but what I understand from people that were there was that all the simplex frequencies and the repeaters were kind of full, and it was kind of a big mess. Is anyone around during the 89 earthquake that knew what was going on? No? Okay. So yeah, so that's what I was told by the old guys that were around back when I started in 2010. So that's where we bought our own repeater for CERT, and ARCA has its own repeater. So hopefully we can keep it for ourselves during a disaster. Always identify your station when you first start up, and then every 10 minutes, and then on your last transmission, make sure you identify your station. You don't have to identify, say, your call sign KT6 CRT at every time you disconnect, let go of the PTT. It just takes time to do that. It's a waste of time to do that, especially on tactical issues, tactical channel, when you want to get more messages through. Only ID when you first start, and then every 10 minutes if you keep going, and then at the last one. If you're doing a parade, make sure you wear a headset. It can be very noisy in a parade. You want to make sure you hear what's going on, and having a headset with an earbud makes it a lot easier to do that. Always speak slowly and clearly, especially if somebody has to write something down. Don't speak faster than you can write yourself, because someone's writing this down on the back end. You may want to pause in between messages and keep them short. So you say something, give the operator time to unkey in case somebody has emergency traffic, give the operator time to write it down, then key up and keeps going with your message. Some groups say you should say over when you're done, so that if you do unkey and you keep going, when you say over, I know you're done. Don't hold the radio by the antenna, always hold it by the base. Don't put it in your pocket or put it on the ground. We had one person, she had no place else to put it, so she sat on the ground, and then we were trying to call her and she couldn't hear us because it was on the ground. Try not to cough or sneeze on the radio. If you have to cough or sneeze, or you don't know what to say, unkey the mic. Do not key up the mic until you know what you're going to say. Think about what you want to say. Make sure you know what you're going to say. Key up the mic, say it, and then unkey. If you key up the mic and you're thinking about what you want to say, you're saying, I think, I don't know, unkey the mic, figure out what you want to say, and then start again. You're wasting airtime. Make sure you use the international phonetics. If you listen to Patrick Perminger, he'll have this whole thing in Swahili, and it's really annoying when he does that, but it's interesting sometimes too. I use international phonetics. I know Z for Zulu is Zulu, but sometimes Rose like to do Z. I guess Z used to be an old way to do it, but I don't know. But make sure you use the international phonetics so everyone knows what words and letters you're trying to say. There are different types of nets. The ARCA net is the ARCA repeater is primarily used as a resource net. So when we do have an event or an activation, everybody checks in on the resource net. When you get an assignment, we move you to the tactical net, which is the CERT net. That makes all the actual traffic for the event itself happen on a different repeater. It's the CERT repeater, and it leaves the ARCA repeater open for ARCA people. If they want to use it during the day, they can. We just have it if it's like a search and rescue or the parade, we do this. So that during the day, people can use the ARCA repeater if they want to, but we use it as a resource net only to get people back and forth where they need to be. Tactical nets are used to pass emergency traffic or traffic for that assignment for that event. We use tactical call signs, and there's a whole separate class on how to use tactical call signs. We do right before the July 4th parade, if you want to join that. And it says it talks about how to use and work in a tactical net. And if you don't have a radio, these are 3 of the radios that we recommend. The Baofeng radios, this is the HP high power HP version, the Yaesu FT60 and the Yaesu VX6R. Baofeng is a cheap Chinese knockoff. It works great. It is really hard to program. You cannot program it in the field. People have tried. They have huge manuals on how to do it. I'm told people have done it, but I would not recommend programming it in the field. You can program it easily with a computer, and then make sure you program every channel you might need first before you head out. And we do have programs and files with these our channels already pre-programmed for you if you want to do that. It's a great way to get into ham radio. If you have a license but you don't have a radio, you can buy a radio, antenna, mic, battery for about $120. All that for about $120. The radio itself is only about $50, depending on where you get it from. The next setup, but it's a cheap Chinese knockoff, and sometimes the audio and the clarity is not as clear, and the distance is not as great as you would with a better radio. But it gets you in the game and gets you started. It's also a good radio to have if you have to loan it to somebody. Say you have 2 radios at an event and somebody's radio goes bad, you can loan this one to somebody, so that way they can stay in the game and they can still communicate. But if you get it back, great. If you don't get it back, or if they drop it, it's only $50. It's not terrible. Versus the next one, the Yaesu FT60R, this has been around for a long time, is very solid, very well built, and does a lot of good. It does not have dual listening capability, so you can't listen to 2 channels at the same time. But for an event, you really only want to listen to one at a time, because otherwise you get really confused if you try and listen to 2. If you're just monitoring at some frequencies, it's good to listen to 2 at the same time. But if you're doing an event, you only want to listen to 1, otherwise it gets confusing. But it's a very good radio, and there'll be prices on the next page. The Yaesu VX6R is a much better radio, better clarity, a smaller form factor, it's waterproof, but it's a lot more expensive. So if you go to the next page.
Jerry?
Yep.
I'm sorry, just quick before we move on. Regarding the Baofangs, I have several of them, and indeed they are, Chinese knockoffs. I was so frustrated that I actually created a flow chart which very easily tells how to manually program them. It's actually on our website. Donna put it on there, and certainly, it is what it is, but it's a great intro radio. And indeed, the manual programming has always been horrendous. There are no instructions. However, there is a flow sheet which I created, which is on the website. And I can certainly tell people very directly how to do it. Maybe we could even, anyhow, check the website.
That's very good to know, because I know sometimes I've gone to an event and they said, oh, I know you programmed your radios a certain way because that's what we told you, but that was wrong and you need to change it. Like it's like change the PL tone or change the output frequency or something, like, oh, now I got to change my radio. With my other radios, I have a Kenwood THF6A. It's easy to change. Some of the other radios are easy to change. The Baofeng, I never could change them in the field, so I always had to make sure it was right the first time.
I totally understand.
That's good to know. Okay, that's good. Okay, I'll mention that. Okay, so here's the pricing for those things. So you got with pricing, like for the BF F8 HP is $63, and with accessories $138, and then it goes up. And there's another one if you want to get into DMR. We do have this whole list on our CERT website, and there's a 4th one that has DMR on it. The Bridgecom, something I have it here someplace. That has DMR on it, which is digital mobile radio, I think. That goes through the internet, but that's not on this page. So here's some of the details about different radios. You want to get high power as much as you can. Replaceable antennas. You don't want to stay with the rubber duck antenna. You want to get a larger antenna for an event. You want to make sure you have software for it. If it doesn't come with free software, make sure you buy the software so you can program the radio from a computer. Yes, you can do it from the keypad for all of them, but it's much easier to do a lot of channels from software, and you'll be very happy you did. I will change the field programming to C-DAN Adair for the BFA radios. Some of them have, you can listen to FM radio stations. So that helps if you're doing an earthquake disaster. You can listen to KCBS 710 News and hear what's going on in the news. So you could have heard that, okay, the Bay Bridge collapsed and we can't go across the Bay Bridge. So having FM radio always helps. That way you don't have to carry 2 different devices to hear FM radio channels. Having dual monitor helps, but it's not required. And that's about it. Any further questions? I am done. CERT does offer other classes on, like I said, tactical radio use, a full class on what should be in your go bag, urban search and rescue, building search and rescue, electrical and utility shutoff and identification. Carmen, what else do we offer? IC incident commander training. We offer like 16 different classes.
When you said that we do the go bag training, because I'm one of the people that does that one, we don't just have go bags. We have go bags for all kinds of purposes. We have go bags for pets, go bags for kids, go bags like if you got to leave your house, you know, for any length of time. So yeah, hopefully when we get back in a few months to our regular training schedule, we'll be offering a lot more CERT training.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't want to have just a go bag for you. You need one for your kids. That would be totally different than your go bag because they need stuff to keep them self-entertained. If you have to evacuate your house, like for a fire or a flood or whatever, you want to make sure you take something that the kids will enjoy, that they can use in a shelter, or just if you're going to shelter in your car for a few hours, keep them entertained and occupied. Otherwise, they're going to drive you nuts. So you want to have something like if it's their young, coloring crayons, Legos, game, best doll, whatever. Make sure they have something. Nowadays, do they have their iPhone? Everything they need is on their iPhone. If it's a pet, make sure you have stuff for your pet. If you need special medication, make sure you have medication ready to go. Even if it's in just a kit in your bathroom, make sure you grab that if you have to evacuate your house. You don't want to get to a shelter, but they will not have medication for you. And it may take days to get you any kind of replacement medication. So make sure you take your medication. Eyeglasses. If you only have one pair of eyeglasses and you break them, you are out of luck. Make sure you always have an extra pair of eyeglasses. So all this stuff is kind of in some of our classes, and we can teach you and train you all about that. And with that, Ron, I am done, and I've gone over the whole agenda. So we've talked about all that. So I am done with my portion. If you want to have any final parting words.
Okay, well, Jerry, that was an incredible presentation. As I've said, I'm an HF guy who's coming into your VHF world. So you know as much, you guys know as much about the VHF world as I do about HF. So I will learn just as much from you as you do from me. And this is very much an eye-opener. I mean, I've known that we have emergency preparedness, but you really showed us how involved it is and how well it's been coordinated over the years. That's well done. And any of you here in this group today that are a part of that, I want to give you a ride on for that, because you never know when you're going to need it. And like you said, Jerry, not needing it, then we get out of practice. That is why I'm a big fan of radio sport contesting. People think contesting is just screwing around and having fun. Well, it is, but as a matter of fact, it's also emergency preparedness. You learn how to run radios. You learn how to use your phonetic code. Today, this weekend, is the CQ Worldwide Prefix Contest. We call it the Weird Prefix Contest. If you have access to a ham radio or an HF radio, tune around the phone bands and listen to what's going on. If you are capable of transmitting on HF, like Dan, I say jump in and make a few contacts. All you have to do is say 59 and a contact number. I am currently on contact number 157 will be my next contact. So I will say to the station, WX5B, you are 59 number 157, and then 158 and 159. So that's my comment about all of this. There is an HF side. I recommend people look into it as much as I'm looking into VHF. And again, Jerry, if we can get that video from our last meeting up, that will help people a little bit to understand what HF is all about.
Okay, I can look for that and try and get up that. I asked Donna about the YouTube page and she wasn't sure where that was. If you have a link for a YouTube page, let me know.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I do. I will find it and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Is there anything else you'd like to say or ask? I often say that to my clients. Is there anything else you would like to say or ask? Well then, okay. I move that we adjourn this meeting and we meet the fourth Saturday of every month. And this is our fourth Saturday. So the fourth Saturday of April, we will have another club meeting. Invite your friends. Guests are always welcome. By the way, Jerry mentioned Toastmasters. I am a member of the Alameda Tongue Twisters. If you would like to find out what public speaking is all about, turns out Toastmasters has helped me to become a better radio operator. My club meets at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. You can meet us at the Acapulco restaurant on Lincoln Avenue if you want to be live, or you can check in on a Zoom with a Zoom call. And I've been checking in right now with Zoom. So if you'd like to get a Zoom address, email me at Ron, R-O-N, at WQ6X.info. In fact, why don't I just put that in the chat? You can email me at my ham radio address, RON at WQ6X.info, or Toastmasters @Human Insights Group. Did I do that right? Human what? It's real tiny. MANINSIGHTS group.org. I will now put these in the chat. There you go. I can be reached at either of those addresses. I am currently the Vice President of Education for the Alameda Tongue Twisters, and we love guests. And we do a thing called Table Topics, where we'll call you up and give you a random topic. And guests often do better than we do on it. So that's my plug for the Alameda Tongue Twisters. And by the way, we're in speech contest period. If you want to see what real speaking is about, we can give you a link to the upcoming speech contest on April 12th. You'll get to see the best of the best. I didn't make it this year. I got knocked out in the Alameda area contest, but there are other people from Alameda. Thank you for taking the time to come in this morning. And
I got one more comment. Field
yes,
day is
please.
June 24th. So if you're available, come out June 24th.
Yes, field
Sorry,
day is June
calendar.
24th. Between now and then, I will give a presentation on field day so people can learn a little bit more what it's all about. And we would love to have you join us. We can certainly put you to work. Michael John.
And
Oh,
Ron,
you're just
do we have a field day site in mind?
well, I'm hoping I'm going to call WB6RUC Tom. We hope to do the sailboat thing. Park the sailboat at the Aeolian Yacht Harbor. We were going to do that last year, and Tom got stranded in Missouri, so kind of can't pilot a sailboat from Missouri. So hopefully we'll do it at the yacht harbor, and we'll set up on the sailboat, and then we'll set up on land. So when I find out from Tom if he's available. Last year, Donna allowed us to run from her house. That was a godsend, and we made it work. And that's the way field day works. You never know where you're going to actually end up. So it's good. It's good practice. June 24th.
Okay.
Be there or be square.
Thank you everyone for attending today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.